Well, no. See, that's the thing. This is server side. This isn't.
Well, yeah, when you want they would have died earlier.
Right. It would have died yesterday. When they came out. Maybe it was today, but regardless, this is server crashing. So I don't think this is update related. You know what I mean?
I'm good at YouTube is going through that.
Yeah.
Everyone have a good night. I'll be seeing you soon. Goodbye, everybody's.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Hello, hello. How are we? Why is it showing Ghost is here? Ghost is not here. How are we doing this evening? I hope everyone is doing good. Be right back getting snack? No problem. I'm still setting up a couple of things. Let's see, will this work? Do I need to move it up? No, I need to actually open. Yeah. Why is it doing that? Why is it showing? Why does Krita break OBS? It is so confusing. Can you fix yourself, OBS, please? I don't want to how to fix that. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I don't know why it's doing it at all. Yeah, it just keeps duping it. did I do this before? It's just... Yeah, it keeps doing the same friggin' thing. I don't get it. I don't understand why this breaks it. Either way, how are we doing tonight? What's up, Green Jeans? How are you doing? Okay. So it's just supposed to capture. So let's do it this way. What happens? Yeah, and see, it still does it. Yeah, it just keeps doing that. I don't know why. Why are you doing this? What window is being captured? Oh, that one. How are we doing? Just relaxing? Good. Good, good. I am trying to fix something. Hello. How's it going, Ninetails? How's it going, Gossip? I hope we're all doing well tonight. For some reason, I keep breaking. Like, it doesn't make sense why that's breaking. Like, is it just me? Am I dumb? Like, am I misunderstanding how to do this? If I do a display. Yeah, it's just going to capture that. I don't know. I'm still learning about this stuff, and for some reason, let's try that. Capture a specific window. Okay. Now it's not showing at all. Why are you not showing at all? Like, you could legit be on top of everything. Yeah. How is everybody doing tonight? What? I just ran an ad. Why is it saying there's another ad? Okay, Twitch is being a butthead tonight. So how are we doing tonight? Since I seem to be breaking things and just trying to get something to work properly, and it doesn't want to. I hope everyone's well. It would make me so happy if y'all are. Pretty good. Nice. I mean, I know you said you were just relaxing. Why did this work before and now it's not working? What did I screw up? The shadow makes it look like my eyebrow on this side goes all the way back. I don't know. I guess I'm just kind of curious on how everybody's doing, what's going on in your heads. Everybody having fun? Anything big happening with people's lives right now? And now you work. What? So anyway, I've been working on this. Trying to make it more like what I want it to look like. I mean, obviously, you know, I traced the old one. So, I mean, it's not like all my work, but I mean, I traced the old one, but now I mean, you can't really see that much of it, but now it is Wednesday. Yeah, I wanted to make him look a little bit more mechanical and a little bit more detailed. And like I said, I traced the old one. I'm just basically coloring, you know, doing a coloring book. Well, I like colors. And yeah, I'm sorry about the ad. I don't know why it's playing a second ad. I played one right before while I was sitting here. Wrong way. Either way, got to work on getting the detail in. Yeah, it's telling me it's playing another ad. I just played one. It does this when I'm on Wednesdays. So I think it has something to do with playing with someone, like doing a collab. Even though I ran the ad while I was on the starting soon screen, waited the time, started the thing up, and then it's kicking over another ad. I think it just has to do with the timeline, you know, timing. It might think I'm trying to get around playing ads by ending the stream and then a half hour later starting up again. So it thinks it's like it didn't give enough ads. I mean, seriously, I still don't understand what it is with advertisers. I got to say that advertising is probably one of the things that torques me more than anything else. I mean, it's the only thing people pay for to get rid of. That they try to shoehorn in everything. Come on. Why are you doing this? There we go. How do I want the highlights to look? Too bright. We want it lower. Well, not really highlights, but shading, I guess, is what it more. Why are you doing this? Stop that. What layer am I on? Okay, I'm on my own layer here. See, and I use so many layers just because I don't want to mix up what's going on. I don't know if that matters to anybody, but I try to explain what I'm doing. Oh, wow. Pass. What? Where did... No, not bigger, smaller. Yeah, I'm kind of just waiting around until the ad wears off. Yeah. 3. Where's 3? This should be right. Oh, well. Wait, what? What is going on? Clear that layer. And it should have been above. Oh, no, it wasn't. Okay, that's the problem. What's up, Tater? And welcome in, everybody. I'm glad you're all back. Sorry, I was working on the new thing here. Yeah, matzo sticks. See, I used to go to Denny's a lot back where in Centralia, back in Washington. And they had this cheeseburger for a while that I absolutely loved because they put fried mozzarella sticks on it. And then you could get the marinara. Right? Last Shamrock Shake of the season. Yeah, well, I'm basically, it's basically a coloring book at this point. I traced the old one, and now I'm making it look more like what I want it to look like. But yeah, I mean, advertising has to be one of the most irritating things. Yeah, it's Krita. It has everything I want. I mean, I'm not going to pay Adobe, friggin' prices. Oh, I'm sorry, gossip. I am having troubles tonight. I don't know what's going on, but like mentally, like my brain just like skips over info. Ibis. I could not even think about doing this on a mobile. I'm going to be honest. Like mobile would probably drive me nuts. Way too big. That's where you do most of your art. Dang. I have got to say I am more impressed because, I mean, me not being able to have like the big screen that I do, I would feel so limited with mobile being only able to work on, a I mean, to be honest, I mean, and it's, I think tonight I want to talk about how is everybody doing mentally? How are we doing? There is a lot going on in the world that's very frustrating and angry making, but are we able to keep it in perspective? Are we able to realize that 90% of what they're trying to tell us to worry about isn't our problem? Especially us as Americans, I mean, most of it's not even our big issue. I mean, other than maybe gas prices and our current political. Do I like that? Okay. See, I have an old hate for Apple. Nothing current. It's just they frustrated me all the way back in the day. And which is hilarious because I was an Apple guy growing up. I mean, Tater probably doesn't believe that, but yeah, when I was growing up as a kid, all the way up until I hit high school, everything I worked on was Apple. Even my home computer was an Apple. An ancient Apple, but it was an Apple. Like, for its time, it was ancient. Right? Apples to oranges? And I got into high school, took a programming course. Line stabilization feature. I don't even know what that means. Like how it just helps you control the line. Because I'll admit, you know, I might need that. Oh, okay. Oh, no, most of this I do freehand. I probably do this the hardest way possible. I'm probably not even using this program correctly. Right? Well, my lines look rough. I mean, you can see it. I actually work pretty hard. You just need to end that where this world doesn't actually care. It's not for young adults. It's not for adults. It doesn't actually care. It doesn't even care about the people that have money. It doesn't care about the people that don't have money. It just legitimately doesn't care. The world is impersonal. You know, and I hate to put it that way, but that's just the way the world works. And the sooner we all accept that and then move on, because the world doesn't care, it means we have to. At least that's my philosophy, because the world's not fair. We have to do our best to try and make it as fair as possible for those around us. You know, try to care for other people, try to do what we can. I mean, even if we only have so much we can do. A bigger Discord server. Why does that matter? I will say right now that that would be enough of an excuse for me to just step out. Just to ignore the people. They don't matter at that point. I know that might sound mean or crass or whatever you want to say, but if they can't keep their realities apart, if they want to blur the lines, that's a fast track to losing your mind, to losing perspective on the world you're currently stepping in. And honestly, it just sounds like to me people trying to act out fantasies rather than deal with the life they have. I'm not sure if I like that. I want to make it look a little bit more scarred up, but I don't think that's working. Well, then, here's my question for, like, I have an understanding of what's up, Ghost 20. Yeah, I haven't paid attention for a while. Well, and that's the thing is that yeah. And if you guys ever think I'm doing that, please call me out. Last thing I want to be is that guy. You're right. The solutions aren't the same. Well, everybody's lost. Rich, poor, it don't freaking matter. You know, I don't care what color your skin is. I don't care what you identify as. None of that matters at all. I know a lot of people will hate that I say that, but it's a simple truth. If somebody cares what you look like or identify as, that's their problem, not yours. They're the weird ones. And the simple fact is that not one solution will work for everybody. That's why I specifically try to say this is what worked for me. No, exactly. Well, or they're bothering me. You know, if you're stepping on my toes, I'm going to step back. Huh. Well, Cater, you know how many times we survived on those. Well, I know you don't have a paycheck coming in yet, but, well, you will. It's just not here yet. No, I wanted to change the color. I hate when I load back in, I lose all my saved colors. Let's go here. Let's make it a little bit darker. See, to me, though, mirroring image or energy feels too much like giving as good as you get. You know, revenge. Why does that look so much grayer? Let's see if this works before I get too involved. Whoa. You know, mirroring energy just feels like, well, okay, see, that's kind of the bigger problem that a lot of people want to ignore exists. Well, okay, I'm going to say something controversial that probably a lot of you are going to disagree with, but let me explain myself before you give me your critiques. So the simple fact is that, okay, I probably should hydrate before I say something. In fact, this time I want water. So raising minimum wage is the dumbest thing you can do to try and help the smaller person. Absolutely dumbest thing you can do. In fact, I'm going to shut this down and I'm just going to talk about this. So raising minimum wage actually ruins your economy, especially for the poor person. Because what happens is when you raise the minimum wage, you end up making things more expensive for everyone. It's worse than inflation because inflation is a whole nother thing. See, that's something that a lot of people don't understand is that inflation is actually something different. Inflation is when you print too much money. So you weaken the effect of the dollar bill. When you raise minimum wage, things end up costing more. Everything costs more. So that raise does absolutely no good because you actually lose. Because I'm probably fudging the numbers, but the simple fact is that if you raise minimum wage, say 10%, okay, that sounds good on its face. You raise minimum wage 10%. Well, as soon as it's announced, companies raise their prices 10%. And then when it actually gets enacted, like the beginning of the next fiscal year, they raise their prices another 10% on top. So instead of, $10 for every 100, it's now like 12. And again, I'm fudging the numbers. I'm not a numbers guy. I'm not being exact here. But the idea is you actually lose ground. So your wage goes up 10%, but prices go up 12%. And even worse is that anybody that you work with, anybody that was already above minimum wage, their wages don't go up 10%. So they're actually losing money. So you're actually increasing this pay gap. Because I guarantee you that the CEOs, people above a certain level are getting their wages increased. Poke holes in that. If you disagree with me, let me know, because raising minimum wage hasn't done anybody any good. You have to anchor the cost of something on what it costs you either A, to produce it, or maintain the service. That's it. You have to pin it in some way that makes it economic sense, so that if you produce an item for, 2 pennies, then that's including all the plastic. You have to sell that for no more than 6 pennies. Enough to produce another one and enough to pay your employees. Pay up. So yeah, you might have to produce a whole lot of those, but also your employees can afford a whole lot of those. And that's where a lot of the corporations have absolutely lost their minds. We're at a point where the employees of the company can't buy what the company produces, the good or service. 1 hour of their time, they produce 10 to 15 of what they produce, of what the company produces. But 1 hour of their time doesn't buy the thing that they are producing. So the company's already making 10 to 15 times more than the work that the worker is putting in. Because the worker is only getting back maybe 1, but they're making 10 to 15. I hope I explain that well. I hope you get what I'm saying. Holy crap, my camera's noisy. To be honest, I'm surprised it still works. I don't know. Did I lose you guys? You guys think I'm talking out my ass? It's entirely possible. Oh, yeah. Right. I mean, they see, a lot of people want to blame the company. But when all of the factors are the problem, that little company can't do anything because they have to make a profit to survive themselves. So sure, you're making minimum wage, but how much are they spending? All of these things are a huge factor, and it's a real easy solution that nobody wants to hear, because it's a really hard solution to enact. But you actually have to have the government interfere with private business. You actually have to do price caps. You have to put a cap on the price so that people can yeah. No, yeah, exactly. A worker can't have a guaranteed base pay from job to job, but the rent's still the same. Or sometimes goes up every time they have to sign a lease, even though economic or market factors haven't changed. No, I totally understand. They just decide that, because and that's what pisses me off, is because they arbitrarily decide, especially with real estate, to increase prices Oh, because there's less supply. Supply and demand market economics ends up not making any sense. It ends up destroying more than it helps. What's up, Jade? We're talking about economy tonight. So supply and demand, when you have a market like we have, this capitalism that's not true capitalism that we have, well, you can induce demand and artificially stagnate supply. So thereby increasing the value of what you're producing, but it has nothing to do with how much it actually costs you to produce it. You know, all of the factors that make up how much a certain thing costs has more to do with people's wishes, or not wishes, an arbitrary number. It has more to do with an arbitrary idea than it has anything to do with real world thing. You have a good night, 2K, Andy.
It wants your soup. It wants your soup.
The economic factors are so brutal under supply and demand once you have control of the supply and you can induce a demand. Not only that, but artificially restrict supply. You know, it's like these AAA companies for video games putting an arbitrary number on the price of the video game. And that price doesn't make any sense, because if they actually sell the thing over time, you can make more profit and more profit if you have a smaller number. But they're worried more quarter by quarter, fiscal quarter, which means, and this affects everything. So it's not just video games. I'm just using video games as an example. Hi, cat. That tickled. Yeah, you brushing against my leg. So they have no restriction on the amount of copies they can put out there because it's digital downloads. It's not like they're producing a physical thing. It costs them really next to nothing to distribute. I mean, not counting marketing budget. Okay. We're not talking about marketing. We're just talking about actually getting it out there. And even with, distributing on Steam, which takes I think it's 30% cut. Their 30% cut still doesn't really cost them anything because it's a false cost. Because they're putting that cost onto you. So if the game's supposed to cost $20, I don't know what 30% of 20 is, what, $6. So instead of, just, receiving $14 profit, they're going to charge it $26. Oh, wait, but if they charge more, there's more of that 30% being taken. So they can charge, there's a breaking even point. Baby, yeah. Hi. Yes. Oh. Sorry, she is being needy right now. She was a good girl and took her brushing today. Yeah. But she got treats for that. Yeah. Yeah. Fur's all silky smooth. Yeah. She tried to walk away, but I just sat there with the brush and I'm like, we're not done yet. She's like, but treats, we're not done yet. Gets back up on the couch, lets me pet her, or lets me brush her out. Yeah, because you had some mat. Yeah. Well, not mats. I mean, there were tangles. I shouldn't call them mats. I haven't let her get into some mats yet. Well, actually, the funny thing is about most of your consoles. Well, if she had one, she doesn't anymore. I've done a lot to try and brush those out. And consoles, they actually lose money. Oh, yeah. Oh, exactly. I mean, stores don't make as much profit off of the items you would think. Yeah, clothes are pennies. Anybody that tells you different is an idiot. Mostly what you pay for in clothing is marketing and distribution. That's what you pay mostly for, that's the biggest expenses in your clothing. Production is next to nothing. Like Jade said, pennies. The name? Yeah, the name. Oh yeah, don't even get me started on luxury brands. Well, no, I'm going to get started on luxury brands. What am I, stupid? Of course I'm going to talk about luxury brands. Luxury brands are a joke. Oh, they're better quality. No, they're not. No, I mean, when you talk about, better quality, most people don't even realize that, say, like your NBA stars, the Nikes they wear are not off the shelf. Those are custom made, custom built for the sports star. You have no opportunity to buy them at all. Not at the level that they can. And that's the same for most rich people. They know the private numbers to call that are completely restricted unless they know who you are, to get the best run, the best quality. There are very few companies out there that actually sell to the common man anything close to what they sell to the elites. Like, I mean, it's ridiculous when you find out how bad it really is. There are so many factors that people don't understand go into an economy that have nothing to do. Right, Green Jeans. But they also have whole special factories and whatnot for computers for special people. You think Mark Zuckerberg's, right, 3D printing custom. People don't even realize that there are machines out there. If you could afford it, you could 3D print, if you had the proper machines, your own computer from bottom to top. From bottom to top. And I think a lot of people should have known this a long time ago. And this is the only part I'm going to mention. But the only time I'm going to mention this particular person, but the files, Mr. Epstein and his island and his files, I think woke up a lot of people that there is literally a huge difference, a vast gulf of difference between the common man and these 1%ers or 1% of the 1%. I mean, there is a huge gulf. And even worse is that they've been trying to tell us for years. For some reason, they've been gloating about this stuff for years. I mean, just think about, how many of you have seen the Fallout TV show? Or, it's another like popular, Eyes Wide Shut. The movie The Island way back when. I'm trying to think about what things people might have seen. Well, anyway, there's a whole subplot in Fallout, the TV show, about how the elites not only had their own vaults, like these vaults were specifically built for them, but it's not just that. these vaults were their own people. You know, they specifically handpicked all the people that went into them, no matter it was supposed to be a random lottery. Hey, what are you so... You're normally not this needy. What's up? Everything okay? I know you're fed and watered. I make sure of that at dinner. You know, and they provided all of this protection for themselves. They had the best of the best, the most elite care possible in their vaults, and handpicked slaves to take care of them, in some of them. Do you really think that our current elites aren't doing something to that effect? Do you really think that somebody that gets low-level celebrity isn't handpicked? Do you really think it has anything to do with who they really are and just who they want? Oh, yeah. Nuclear bunkers have been around since the 50s. Gee, I wonder why. Nuclear power was discovered in the, 42, 43? Right, nuclear bunkers. But what the elites are building now aren't anywhere near what we would think of as bunkers. They're luxury. They are luxury underground living, complete with whole levels to park their luxury cars on. What was it I saw? Somebody, I think Zuckerberg spent $317 million on his bunker. I could be confusing numbers, but I mean, he has one of the most extensive. And what really kind of bothers me is, are the elites being stupid? Or do they know something we don't? Because they're building their bunkers in lowland areas. So obviously they're not worried about climate change and the rising waters. Because I don't care how good your bunker is, water is the ultimate corrosive. And especially seawater. Seawater will corrode everything eventually. It'll break anything down. I don't care what it is. So why are they building bunker complexes in Florida, in lowland areas, or on private islands? Like, they know something we don't know. They have, I mean, or at least they're just dumb. You know, I'm not that conspiracy theory that thinks the elites know more than I do. It's like, well, they might be better informed, but I don't think they really know things. I think they believe what they're told. Right. Maybe water power. Maybe maybe there's some kind of weird power. Maybe they perfected the hydrogen power. It's just in case. No. Green Jeans, do you spend the bulk of a year's paycheck on a just in case? Like think about that for a second. 317 million, even to Mark Zuckerberg, isn't an insignificant amount. While it might be an insignificant amount of his pay, remember, they don't have liquid cash. You know, it's not like he's worth $1 billion and has it just sitting in a Scrooge McDuckian vault somewhere. It's locked up here, there, and everywhere. So he's only got a finite amount of cash to actually have access to. And if you're spending 100, 200, 300 million, like I said, I can't remember exactly how much it was. And you're putting a bunker, I think his was in Hawaii. But there's also a luxury complex in Miami. Or not Miami, in Florida. I don't know if it's in Miami. You don't spend a significant portion of your budget on a just in case. I'm sorry, that's not what people do. Even more so is that they're not putting their their bunkers anymore in the Midwest, which that messes with me. Like, most of the time, people were putting them as far away from the ocean as possible. They were putting them in the mountains and the hills. You know, think about, Cheyenne Mountain Complex, Thunder Mountain, where our government put their bunkers that we now know about, which, I mean, I'm sure that they have ones we don't know about. Right. I mean, now like, are these bunkers just a status symbol? But that doesn't make any sense. One, if you're smart, nobody knows where your bunker is, which makes it even more dumb that the elite are telling people even a generic or a general location of where their bunker is. Like, I don't know how many of you ever really put thought into the idea of what if shit really hits the fan. But you're not going to tell people where it is. You're not going to draw attention to it. Hell, you might build something completely on top that has nothing to do with a bunker, a false building, or even a real building. You just go into your garage and there's an escape hatch that's underneath the flooring, hidden quite well. Exactly. The whole point is to hide. So why are the elite telling people where they are? Not only that, but why are the elite gravitating to private islands? If climate change is such a big deal, why are they gravitating to private islands, which would be more at the mercy of heavy weather, hard winds, rains, ocean effects, everything that we're seeing happening, unless they know something we don't? And the only thing I can think of is that it's more likely that they are, to me in my head, this is my theory. Get out your tinfoil hat, whatever. But my theory is they seem to be more patterns of engineering for an ice age than for a heat wave. If that makes sense. This to me looks more like when the ice caps start reforming and they start pulling the water out of the ocean. Well, your sea levels drop. So you literally would have more land. And they're trying to hide out while that happens. Which is funny because your average ice age lasts, 15 to 20 to 30,000 years. And there's even cases that, everything we know about the ice age or know about our civilization is basically after the ice age. There's really not much before. Like the ice age wiped out 90% of all of our history. Yeah, exactly. Well, but this would be a catastrophic shift, like they're theorizing what actually happened with the ice age. Right, you should have the high heat before the cold. But they're betting on the seas not rising any higher. They're betting on the seas not rising from where they are. I mean, we were expected to get a foot or two from climate change. And Florida should be swallowed. I mean, vast parts of the inland of the Midwest, there could be an inland sea for what they were talking about with a foot or two of water level. Like, people don't realize how much that really is. And I mean, again, I could be just tinfoil hat theorying here, but you don't do all of this planning and everything for a just in case. Not if you're that rich. I mean, really, if you're that rich, you don't have just a just in case. You have a surety. I mean, what if they're just showing us to the ones that they have at the ocean side, but they're not telling about the ones that are in the mountainside? Because that would actually make more sense to me rather than having a $300 million bunker that they built It only cost them $100 million, but they built 3 of them in different areas. So they're just saying that the one that they couldn't get away with not telling somebody about, so they could have one close to wherever they are. See, that's a just in case. You have one close to wherever you are. It's why there's so much traction on the Denver airport conspiracies, and that it's that there's a bunker underneath. Because I mean, they spent several $1 million on a baggage distribution blah 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 thing that never worked, so they just abandoned it. They spent how much money and just abandoned the tunnels underneath the Denver airport? And don't forget that the airport was like $1 billion over budget. No, I don't think they really did. Do I know what's under there? Do I know what they did with it? No. But I guarantee you it's not abandoned. I guarantee you there's something there. Right. We're just made to think it. And because it's an airport, airports have a lot higher stringent security measures. So you can't just walk around without being observed. You can't just investigate and wander. I don't care what YouTube videos you find of people wandering the airport and finding what they want. You can't just wander without permission. No, but that's already widely known. They have a backup system. Like, that's part of the plans. We know that. They literally have the equivalent of a 5-story building underneath the airport, you know, like literally 5 stories down, that's just abandoned. If I remember correctly, it's the equivalent of 5 stories down. There's a little baby. She's on camera. You can see her. Hopefully you can see her. Yes, that's a little baby. Hi, Ash. Yeah. Meow. Meow. Really? Meow. Meow. All right, fine. She's not going to do it. I'm not even sure about Disney anymore. I don't know, because I mean, we know they had secret tunnels underneath. We know that they had a whole bunch of stuff that people didn't know about. Until they did. And now, who knows? Who knows really what's going on with it? Because nobody really knows. All I got to ask is, why would they just freeze his head? See, to me personally, that seems like a thing that is supposed to be out there for you to believe. But not something that's real, if that makes sense. But I'm going to run the ad and I'll be back in 5. Oh, I agree, Green Jeans. It is a funny theory, but so many people believe it. That's what bothers me more. And I'm back. Or will be in a second. Right. I mean, it is one of the funny theories I've heard. The only problem is that there's also a lot of anecdotal evidence that Walt probably would have really done this. That's got to be the bigger issue, is that there's also evidence of it. Well, we started about talking about the economy and how shit it is to raise the minimum wage without actually stopping companies from raising prices, let alone, you know, rent prices and stuff like that. And welcome in, Infinite. And then we got to talk about, you know, how the elites have bunkers, only they're putting them in places that I wouldn't expect, like near water, not near oceans, lowlands, which would be easily flooded if climate change is really what we think it is. Now, don't get me wrong. I do believe in climate change. But the elites are putting their bunkers in Miami, sorry, not Miami, Florida, Hawaii, you know, island areas where you would think that if the oceans raise like we're told, their bunkers would be sealed and they wouldn't even have the option of getting out until the ocean level lowers, which climate takes forever to correct itself. Like, see, that's the one thing is that we won't have, we're only making life inhospitable to ourselves, not to the earth itself. We're not going to destroy the earth. We're going to destroy our ability to live on the earth. There's a big difference. We don't even have enough nuclear bombs to actually crack the earth. Like if you fired them all off in one area in one place, we'd dig a really deep hole. But I don't think we'd actually crack the crust to get to the mantle, let alone through all of that. Like we can only destroy our ability to live on the earth. As advanced as we are, we can't destroy the earth. Those are cool ravens. Well, okay, see, I don't believe in hollow earth. I do believe that there is every chance that there is large caverns, like of the size we would never expect in the earth, making certain portions possibly hollow. And I'm just saying it's possible. I'm not saying it is. Like hollow all the way down? No. Do I think that there could be underground caverns that we could possibly live in? Yes. Probably hundreds of miles worth, if not thousands to tens of thousands. People forget how big the Earth is. Like, we've made it small to us, but it's really huge. It's huge. And we're not that big as planets go. But yeah, I mean, to bring it back to like the economy, I don't think people really understand how screwed up it really is, how dangerous of a game we're playing, and how little control we have over all of it. And this isn't to scaremonger. This is more to tell people, like, it's not your fault. It's not. You're not poor because you're bad with money. I will tell you that right now. I don't care who needs to hear it. You're not poor because you're bad with money. There is no world right now that we could live in where it would be your fault. I don't know how else to put it other than the elites are chosen. There is no true rags to riches story. Okay, YouTube made some in the very beginning, but outside of that, there's not really rags to riches stories. Somebody always had to amplify or to encourage or to invest. Somebody always had to do something about it. I don't know how else to put it. You know, it's not your fault. You got to work with what you have. There is nothing else you can do. I don't care how smart you are. I don't care how good you are at whatever you do. Somebody has to take notice and somebody has to amplify you. And in our current day and age, well, do you really think the YouTube algorithm? Yeah, always had to have a contract signed too. Do you really think the YouTube algorithm or algorithms in general actually serve you things you want? Or is it actually serving you things to engage you, whether that is rage engagement or numb engagement? See, this goes back to me asking about your mental health and how you're doing. And, you know, the algorithm is designed to siphon your energy. It is designed to burn you out, to fatigue you to where all you are is just this mind numb scroll bot. Well, yeah. I mean, but also there's the illusion of, you know, oh, they serve you like these low count, well, at least they do me, low count YouTubers, you know, like, oh, they have 50 to 100 views, you know, hey, why don't you give these people a shot? But they're not talking about anything I care about. They literally have nothing to do with what I've been looking at. I don't mind watching a low count YouTuber at all. I would love to. I would love to find one that's close to what I like to talk about and everything and listen to. So I know the algorithm just doesn't work. They really don't, like, it's not designed to actually serve you something that makes you think or makes you feel better or anything like that. It is designed to give you things to wear you down. I mean, when was the last time you actually sat down and tried to look at and try to find something that was just slightly different than what you watch? You know, you like true story narrations. Well, go try to find a fiction narrator. Oh, there's a lot of them out there, but try and find them. You know, outside of these big names, you're not going to find somebody that's just trying to get started. Because YouTube really doesn't want to make any more millionaires. Which is dumb, because right now, if I could be propelled as a Let's Player, whatnot, you know, I would probably sign a 50-50 contract. I mean, let's be honest, you know, the 90-10 contracts are a thing of the past. 70-30 people scream and cry about. I'd probably sign a 50-50 and people would be like, oh, that's dumb. That's dumb. It's like, no, it's not dumb. It's the best you're probably going to get, because if you don't take it, somebody else will. If you don't take the amplification, somebody else will. But a 50-50 contract, I mean, honestly, how much money does someone need? I've lived with so little for so long. An extra $1,200 a month, which is pittance to Google terms, to YouTube terms, would literally change my life. I'm a cheap friggin' date, man. Oh, yeah. Oh, my family was dirt poor. I mean, we've always been poor. The closest I got to being rich was when I was in shipping, but what I had to do to be in shipping, I up here couldn't handle it. It was too long away from family. 4 months at a time, with the potential of being 8 months. Nope. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I never had money. Whatever money I had, I worked for. I worked jobs from the time I was 12 to like 28. You know, and that's when I started homeschooling the kids and then just working like part-time jobs. But like, I worked for a pool as a swim aide. I worked for a skeet shooting range, and I ran my own little lawn care business. You know, I was mowing lawns. I call it a business because it was actually I actually had to hire my friends so that I could actually have some time off. There was just too much work. And that was how I had school clothes. That was how I had my school supplies. I was 12. I worked through high school. I mean, I did football. I did all of that extracurricular and had a job. See, you know, I mean, and that was what I did to help my family out. I left home and then I moved back in with my family, but I paid rent. You know, I moved back in with my parents, but I paid rent and paid partial bills. Like I tried to set it up as a roommate because they needed the help. And when they kept trying to put curfews on me and tell me I had to be home at a certain time and all of this, and I just said, screw it. I came into this being a roommate and you're trying to treat me like I'm still your kid. So I found roommates. I moved out again. And was it the best? No, I had like 11 roommates in a 3.5 bedroom house. I mean, one of the bedrooms was the size of your average living room. So we actually were able, I mean, to give you an idea of how big this bedroom was, we actually sectioned it out to, right? This one bedroom was big enough that we sectioned it out into 3 rooms with 3 queen size beds in it. Yeah. You know, there were people that slept on the couches. I was one of them for a time. I mean, it's just what we did. You know, I mean, my dad was so happy when he was making $50,000 to $60,000 a year. That was the most money he ever made, was $50,000 to $60,000 a year. He was blown away that when I first started shipping, I think I started out at 70. I started out at like 70K. with the wife working, you know, I think we were getting really close to 95K. We were making a decent amount of money per year. And this was in the early 2000s. But we had to spend so much money to maintain that lifestyle that we really weren't making any more than we were when we were making 50K a year. The other, like, we worked so hard to make that money that the kids had to be in daycare, which took a huge chunk. Oh, yeah, before the big 2008. Yes. This was like 2003 to 2006 when we finally lost our house. I mean, that's the closest I ever got to being middle class. Was I bought a house with $500 down. That was a dumb idea. You know, I mean, I was one of the reasons why the 2008 housing price, you know, bank collapse happened, is because I got a loan for a house I couldn't afford. What they didn't expect me to do, and see, this is how I know the 2008. Oh, yeah. Well, they've only gotten worse. This is how I know the 2008 banking collapse was engineered. Because they knew what they were doing. They absolutely knew what they were doing. They wanted to buy the houses. They didn't want people. I mean, that's how BlackRock made all their money. And Blackstone and Vanguard and State Street. You know, these big, heavy players that you barely hear anything about. You know, the power behind the power. This is how they got to where they are. Was because the 2008 banking crisis had to happen for them to be able to do it. If they weren't able to invest in so many private homes at once for cut rate prices, enough to force banks to go out of business, to consolidate wealth even further, they wouldn't have the trillions that they're dealing with now. If the 2008, and this is why I don't like Obama. If he hadn't, good night, Tater. You have a good shift, and I love you. If Obama hadn't have given the monies to the bank, all that money that he signed over to the banks, that for all those golden parachutes and for to save all these companies, was the dumbest thing I have ever heard. If he had given it to the people that their houses, see, this is again how you know it was engineered. If he had given it to the people, if he had divided that money up that ended up getting spent to the people, guess what would have happened? They would have caught up on their frickin' loans. Those banks would have been solvent within a month or two. Banks wouldn't have failed because the people that had those mortgages that were all wrapped up in that mortgage failure, that they had all the writs in their hands, you know, for you owe us money. If they had given all that money to the people to pay off their debts, the people would have been solvent. The banks would have been solvent. And the economy would have stabilized because now people would have had collateral, you know, because they would have been able to pay their houses and, you know, use some equity to get some stuff and actually help cycle up the economy. But because he gave it to the banks and he paid off the companies, what happened? All that money that they got paid for those bad loans that they put in, that these houses were getting foreclosed on. Well, now the banks not only got paid, they also got the houses because they foreclosed on them. Well, the banks didn't have any reason to have those houses. That's just dead weight on them. So a company like Blackstone, which is the housing side of BlackRock, bought up all these houses. State Street, Vanguard bought up all these houses so that they could put us in this rental crisis we're in now. I mean, poke a hole in my logic. Oh, of course they came out on top. They let a few of them fail. But remember, again, those banks didn't actually fail. They were bought by bigger banks. So those banks didn't go anywhere. They're still around. They just changed names. Like, and it's just potential loss that killed them. See, that's the thing is that our economy runs on a shadow of money. Like, think about it. You hear about these companies losing, $100,000, $1 million, $1 billion in valuation. In valuation. That means that that company never actually had that money to begin with. So here's a big thing. You have $100. You invest it in a stock. And that stock doubles in value. So you have $200, but you're not pulling that money out. That stock doubles in value. Yay, you've made, $200. You now have $200. You made an extra 100. But then in the next few weeks, that stock drops by half. So you're back down to your 100. How much money have you lost? Zero. You've lost nothing. You have lost nothing. Big old goose egg. You lost $100 of potential, but because you didn't cash it out, it was never yours to begin with. But companies will take that goose egg that they lost nothing and say, no, we lost 100. And that goes on their books. Because they trade on debt. They do something that you cannot do. They trade on debt. They can take that 200, that extra $100 in stock and go buy property that's worth 10 times the value of that $100. They just have to pay it off over 30 years. They mortgage out a property. And yes, these are round numbers, so I can keep them in my head. These aren't actual numbers. So they can go buy that's worth 10 times the amount. But they only had to secure it with $100. So now they have $1,000 in valuation that they haven't paid anything for. They took a stock windfall and they didn't even sell this $100 of stock. They used that $100 of stock as collateral. They didn't even put a down payment on that property. They use it for collateral. So they sell or buy that property that's worth 10 times the amount that they just collateralized. Economy gets bad. They sell that property. But wait, here's the trick. On average, properties increase in value 6% year over year. Last I knew. So that $1,000 property has earned them $60 in a year. So the market crashes. They sell all of it. Remember, they never spent a dime for this and now made out $60. Now multiply that by trillions and take that same percentage. They're not losing money. They're making money off of you by saying they're losing money. We're not taught to pay attention to it. They'll teach you algebra, but they won't teach you how to do your own frickin' taxes. They won't teach you about compound interest. They won't teach you about simple interest versus compound interest. These are all normal things. Your bank account with a savings is simple interest, not even compound. Rich people get compound, you get simple. And if you understand the difference between simple interest and compound interest, you'll understand how much you're getting robbed. Well, except for technically your late fees are compound interest. If you don't pay a bill on time, that's compound interest. They compound it by late fee. Plus, like especially with a credit card, they slide your percentage, your APR to the higher one because you're late. So say you got a credit card with a 15%. Well, they'll slide it up to a 20. So that's compounding how much you owe them. So your next minimum payment just to get back to good will be 2 and 3 times the amount that you couldn't pay previously anyway. They don't care if you do because they make money off of that debt. Yeah, because they don't care, because it's more worth it more to them, because they would rather evict you, because then they get a whole, because if you're being evicted, you're not going to be getting your deposits back. They evict you, they get to keep your deposit, plus the incoming tenant has to pay a deposit. So they're making money off of it. Flat out. No matter what you do, they are making money. You can fail, you can win on your side of it. This is why I say it's not your fault. Everything is literally designed to make you fail. Once you understand that you're just gonna, that everything is designed to make you fail, it makes you understand that there is more important things to worry about. Your mental health. Because here's the thing. It might sound, you can always find a job. May not be the job you want, but you can always find a job. Right. You got to pay for your mental health. But what I mean by mental health is that, like, obviously you can't do this too often, but like if you are literally having just a bad mental health day, like that if you go to work, you might either neck yourself or neck somebody else. Take that day off. Call in sick. It might be hard to afford it, the day off, but I guarantee you it'll be a lot harder to afford if you go into work and you lose your job. Plan for losing a job. Always be paying attention. Always be looking at the next horizon. Here's the biggest secret I can tell you. The biggest secret I can tell you is have as much loyalty to your company as your company has to you. Really understand that. Oh, the only reason why they're doing that is because they were losing people. They don't actually care. Yeah, match their energies. Do you think the company's going to act? Do you think your company actually cares about a good work-home life balance? No, they don't. They care about keeping the employee to a certain degree, or they care about your employees telling other people, hey, these guys treat us like family, blah, 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 blah. And I'm talking about corporations, not mom and pops. Okay. Big difference. I'm talking about corporations like Walmart, Amazon, blah, 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 blah. They're going to tell you they have a good work-home life balance because they want their workers to tell other people they have a good work-home life balance. Because if they lose that worker already promoted them. They worked as advertisement. See, that's the other thing that, the big guys really don't want you to understand is that buying specifically for brand, you're advertising for the company. Advertising. Why do you think they put their name on everything? Oh, I knew you meant energies. I mean, at first I tried to read it as match their greeneries, and I'm like, why the hell am I going to try and keep up with their bushes? I'm just saying that don't be any more loyal to the company than the company's going to be loyal to you. If you find a better job, it's like, hey, talk to your manager. It's like, hey, man, company XYZ just offered me, $2 more an hour to do their work, and it's the same work. Are you willing to match that? No? All right, see ya. Why give them a 2 weeks notice? I mean, that's the biggest bullshit I've ever heard. Pardon my language, but 2 weeks notice is literally only for the company. Do they give you a 2 weeks notice when they're going to fire you? Genetics. Yeah, match their genetics. Because we can do that. I wish people would understand that. Right. Yeah, they're not going to give you 2 weeks notice to fire you. They only give severance packages and warnings like that to, way higher up. If you're entry level, not only are you entry level to the job, that job is entry level to you. It's a stepping stone. Treat it as such. You have no reason, no need to be loyal to them. I will tell you that from my history. These are things I wish I knew way back when. Because I would give, when I first started at a company, I'd give my all. I would work my butt off for them, thinking that they would understand that here I am, I'm working hard, I'm doing everything, boom, 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 I'm really good at it. But I can't keep that up forever. And as soon as my productivity falls from when I first started, they start asking what's wrong with me. Even though I'm doing the work of 2 guys before. I mean, I got fired from a job that they had to hire 4 people to replace me. 4. They lost money. They lost money to replace me, to fire me because I wasn't working as hard as I was. And they just couldn't trust me anymore to keep doing the job. Bruh, So I worked for a time lumping loads. And lumping loads is loading the back of... Ouch. Lumping loads is loading semi-trucks, or their trailers anyway. And I was working at this one place. It was for, this will tell you how long ago this was, Circuit City. I was loading trucks at a Circuit City warehouse. My whole job was to load the truck, high and tight, which means it was up to the roof and as tight as I could get it. And we had these conveyors, and we had to keep that freight moving and load it, because if you got slowed down, you ended up with all this stuff scattered everywhere, and it was your ass. So I got really good at it within a couple of days. And they shifted me over to a slightly different line. Just a couple of trucks down. It was different equipment because I got good at handling the heavier, more delicate electronics. And boom, 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 I loaded this truck. And all of a sudden, I have like 4 guys coming into my truck going, so where's the 2-man lifts? What? Oh, the bigger boxes, you're supposed to set them off to the side so, you can team lift it. It's already done, man. I can handle it. That, and as soon as you would know if I didn't, and I did. Infinite, when I was in football in high school, and this was just after high school to give you an idea of how strong my legs were. For the leg press machine that we used, which was an incline where you push up, they didn't have enough weight in the weight room. I used every 45-pounder we had and our 2 wide receivers, and I could still do it. We figured it up to being about 900 to 950 pounds. with just my legs. There was one point where a guy had torqued me off and I sat on the edge of a curb. So it's one of those sidewalks. I mean, but if you understand, that's not a shine on power lifters. They're doing 1,200, 1,300 pounds. You know, that's just a lot for a normal guy. I wasn't even trying to power lift. But this guy pissed me off, and he had a small little hatchback car that was popular in the mid to late 90s. And so I put my hands down, I sat on the sidewalk, and his car was parked up to, you know, those curbs that separate it from the sidewalk. So I had just enough room to put my feet on his bumper and push his car into traffic with all the friction because he wasn't in neutral. I mean, I don't know how much weight or anything that would have been. Luckily, we were at school and it was a low traffic area. I mean, his car didn't get hit or anything, but if he hadn't been coming out at the right time, because I saw the meter maid coming down and his car was parked too far away from the curb with what I'd done because it was a nose-in road. So his butt end was sticking out into the road. I think I only moved it like 2 feet, but that was enough to get it out of the parking spot technically. So yeah. But yeah, I mean, and this was the same thing. This is what haunted me my whole work life. It didn't matter what job I had. I was the strong back. I was the guy you called to move heavy things. I worked in a damn friggin' telemarketing firm. And we still had reams of paper that would get delivered because we all had to have these sheets and stuff that our call lists. It wasn't even a computerized place. And so we'd get these big, you know, those office boxes of papers dropped off. Guess who was the guy that had to sacrifice his numbers for the day to unload the truck? Me. So I never was able to make my bonuses at that place because it was 2 to 3 times a week we would get deliveries. I was the guy lumping loads. When I worked for Radio Shack. When I worked for Radio Shack, I had to move the freight. Load the back storeroom. When I worked on ship, I mean, these are big guys. A lot of them former Navy, former military of some stripe. Have to move something heavy? Call Mark. My nickname on ship before it became Superman was Clark Heister. 2 different kinds of forklift. Oh, and the one guy that hated me, he called me Baby Huey. Like, I mean, I don't think people really understand how hard people have it at any given job, because I know I dealt with shit. That doesn't mean that I don't think somebody else did. Baby Huey, it's an old cartoon, and Baby Huey, like, I'm sure you watched enough Looney Tunes. Basically, remember that Mother Goose with the blue bonnet and like all of that? Well, before she was a motherless hen, or a childless hen, her archetype was Baby Huey's mom. And basically think of a big, strong Lenny type character from Of Mice and Men. You know, just basically big and dumb. That's what he thought of me, was that I was big and dumb. Because, well, what he didn't understand, and, you know, we finally had it out when we were breaking articles, meaning that we were back home and I was going home. Oh, yeah, he hated me. He didn't understand that I perfectly understood what he was doing to me. So he would give me the worst work. I'd have to clean the bilge. I'd have to blow down the stack, which is hot work, which is, I mean, you're just pouring sweat. It doesn't matter how hot or cold it is outside, because the stack is where the exhaust goes out. Which, I mean, it's horrible, but it collects about a lot of carbon and you got to blow it down and clean it up. He was throwing me every worst job imaginable. And he didn't understand that I happily did these. I was ecstatic when he had me do these. Because with every single one of them, it was either hazard pay, double to triple time. Not only that, if it was dirty work, what's considered dirty work, as soon as I was done with the dirty work, I had an hour worth of cleanup time paid for at double to triple time, depending on the time of day. That guy was trying to punish me, but he was making me money hand over fist because I read the contract, because I knew to put in for all of those overtime, hazard time, hot time things. He made me crap ton of money. He didn't understand. He just thought I was dumb. Oh, no, he thought I was dumb. He thought, because he was punishing me for being myself. He hated me. He was punishing me for it. What he didn't understand is that he was making me money hand over fist because he didn't understand my contract. Because that overtime stuff went to his boss, not to him. But I had to follow the orders of this guy. Think like your floor supervisor, but you know, who's the one that assigns you work, but you hand your payroll stuff to their supervisor, to the actual manager. So that actual manager just, would probably come down and ask, hey, did you have Mark do this, and this week? Yeah. Okay. And they sign off on it. I figured out that in the 2 months that I was on that ship, I technically got paid for 6. And I was only working 8 to 9 hours a day, but I was on the clock for 14. Like, it was ridiculous how much money I was making off of that. And that's why the first years I was shipping, it was wonderful. Because I was making a bunch of money because I knew what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. All because of that first guy that hated me. I mean, he hated me. He called me a virus. Because, I don't know. He hated me so bad, it got him demoted. Not only did it get him demoted, he treated me so poorly that the other guys of my same rank, the non-officer engineer rank, stopped doing overtime, which was optional. But if the regular rank and file workers don't show up for overtime, the officers have to do it. That's part of what was negotiated in the contract. Which is why when the chief engineer, the first engineer, the second engineers, and the junior engineers are having to make up for what the rank and file weren't doing, oh boy, were they pissed when they found out that it was all because of the way he treated me. Now, keep in mind, this is happening during the time I was off the ship for 2 days because it moved without me and I had to catch up. That's the Crete story. So he's getting demoted, his ass reamed, and all of that. I show up, I get back on ship, and literally told I need to meet in the meeting room because there's a big engineering, engine room meeting. I'm like, okay. Like I literally had enough time to put my bags away. And this is literally when the first engineer gets demoted to the second engineer gets promoted to first. And the chief engineer asks everybody nicely, can you try and show up for overtime? And keep in mind, I was perfectly fine with the way I was being treated. Everybody thought I didn't show back up because of the way he was treating me, that I just abandoned ship and went home. That's what the story was. And I'm like, no, I got too drunk and I missed the ship. I had to make it back. No, see, because when they finally asked me, this is how I actually gained the respect of the whole engine room. When I came back, and we're all sitting down because the officer's mess was on a different place than the regular rank and file mess. So just the regular Siemens, we're all sitting in there, and the engine room guys come by. We all sit down at one table, not because it was like necessary, it's just what we did. And they finally asked me, it's like, why did you do all that work? And I'm like, bruh, I was getting paid double time during regular time, so that's triple time. Oh yeah, I always love a clean shower. Getting clean in the shower. So I was getting paid double time while also getting my daily wage. So that's triple time. They were paying me 3 times for a day. I was making money. And they were like, wait, what? Yeah, when he had me do the bilge during regular time, well, bilge is already dirty work, which adds another 50% to, and I might be remembering this wrong, but it added another 50% to my daily wage. Well, it's because it's dirty work. It also gives you another clothing allowance because you're ruining your clothing doing it. You can't clean that stuff out. So I was getting another $100 on the day. Then it also counts as overtime. So I was also making a time and a half. So that's double time in total, plus the clothing allowance. Then I'm also still getting my regular daily wage. I'm still getting my 100% pay. And on top of that, I'm getting 200% pay. So it actually equaled out to triple time getting paid for cleaning out the bilge. But not only that, you can only clean the bilge for 4 hours a day. That's it. That's all you can do. But you get paid for 8 of it. So technically, in that 4 hours of cleaning the bilge, because once you step out of the bilge, you have to go take a shower. You have to get new clothes on and clean up, which is why you're only able to do it for 4 hours. So technically, I was getting paid almost 6 times on days like that because I was only working half the day. And then I'd come down for overtime after 5 o'clock. Remuster down in the engine room at 6 o'clock for the overtime and see if there's any work to do there. And then he'd have me do more shit work, have me work with acid because we had these plates we needed to clean. And that was hydrochloric acid. And that's more hazard pay on top of already getting paid overtime, which is time and a half. And that's the hazard pay was an extra $150 a day. But see, your average rank and file didn't know the contract. But the first thing I did when I got to ship the first night, because you don't work the first night, you're just basically getting settled in and everything. So the first night I did is I just grabbed the contract and I read it. I read the contract. Simple as that. And guess what? I saw in all of that stuff. And because I remember most of what I read, I knew when I was asked to do certain things, when I went back to my room, I would flip open to where, dirty work was. Okay, that's how I need to code it in the overtime sheet. Hot work. Okay, this is how I need to code it, and do all of this stuff, and what hours I need to claim on it. The other funny thing is that the bilge runs stem to stern of the engine room, which is 3/4 of the length of the ship. The ship we were on was 2,400 feet long. So 3/4 of that, I think I think it was like 1,500 square feet of bilge is what I had to clean. But it goes the width of the ship and the length of the ship in the bottom of the engine room. So I had to clean all of that. Well, not the width of the ship because the ship comes down. So it's not as like narrow, pointy area as you think, but you're under. Oh, that was one of the other things I could put on that time was because I was doing under deck work because I was actually under the decks. I mean, don't get me wrong. It was gross work. Bilges smell like ass. I had to be bent over because there was hatches that you open and you climb down into the bilge, and it wasn't made for a guy my size. Like, this guy just saw me and punished me. He didn't even get to know me before he started this stuff. My first day working for him was hot work. He was trying to break me because I intimidated him somehow. Instead, all he did was make me a butt ton of money. My first run on ship, I paid off every loan I took to get into it, which were not insignificant. $5,000 to $6,000, I think, is what I borrowed. Because I had to get all of these licenses. I had to get my passport. I had to get, go down to San Diego and a 4-day room and get all of this training. And then fly back because I didn't drive. I had to fly because I only had one car and the wife needed it. I had to fly back, round trip. I had to do all of that. That was $5,000 to $6,000. I had to do it. It sucked. I mean, it was hard getting into, but it made me money. I paid off every loan within the first 2 months of working on ship. And I had money left over. After 2 months off, I turned around and did another 4-month stint. 2 months off, and I did another 2-month stint, but I broke my toe on that one, so they actually had to relieve me early. And I decided that was enough for me. And by the way, that was like 3 years worth of actual being in shipping. Because I did some more training, but that was because I'd worked for the union. I was able to do the training. And, so I did the training. I was going to try and rank up and work more, but the wife and I just decided that was enough. And that's how I ended up losing my house, was when I was transitioning from doing that to doing different work. I got behind on the payments. Well, I didn't expect to be sitting here talking about, all of this, but I will say that, the whole point of tonight was I was just trying to check in with people, mental health, and hopefully I'm not dragging your mental health down, which I kind of feel like I do sometimes when talking about this stuff, like how the economy and how it's rigged against you. And that it's not your fault for struggling with money. It's literally designed to make you struggle. There's a reason why JOB is an acronym, just over broke. Because that's what they're designed to do, is just enough to keep you coming back. keep your schedule just in such a way that you can't go look for another job, that you can't. Right. Learn the rules so you can bend them. Understand that the less, and this is a big thing, the less you act like you need the job, the more likely you are to retain the job. The more confident you are in yourself and in your work. Now, don't make it sound like you know what you're doing when you don't, but be confident in what you do. And yeah, you might piss off some people. You might have some of these people in your life that hate you at your job and stuff like that. That's their problem, not yours. Don't change you. Just avoid them. Like, really, just there's no reason. Just avoid them. Be perfectly polite, but no further. Right. So don't act like you need the job. Act like you can walk away from this job at any point. Oh, I love that question. I absolutely love that question. When they ask in the interview, why do you want the job? I like turning it on them. Why did you want the job when you first came in? To see if I could do it. Don't ever tell them to eat and have a roof, because then they know they have you. But if you tell them to see if I can do it, see what I can learn from it. Even if that learning, keep this up in your head. Even if that learning means I ain't working for them again, or I ain't working for that guy again. That guy's a piece of shit. Trust me, I've had plenty of those. Jobs, too many people are way too loyal to their job because they're afraid to start looking for a job. They've made you afraid. You should be capable. I mean, especially in today's day and age. Put out feelers all the time. All the time. Just because you have a job, just because you already have a job does not mean that you stop looking for another one. Always be looking for the next horizon. And when you find a job that fits your skill set, that pays a little bit more, depending on the level in your job that you're at. Oh, I love asking that. So why do you have an opening in the, oh, we're expanding, or, we had a temporary reduction in staff, and I like looking at him, so you fired him. Well, okay, so how's your turnover rate? What? Well, how high is the turnover rate here? You start talking to them like you know what they're doing. Not that you know what you're doing, you know what they're doing. You start interviewing the company to even see if you want to work for them. You turn that around on them. And yeah, that might mean that you don't get a job. But if they're afraid of answering your questions, you have no reason to answer theirs. I mean, if you're super desperate for a job, sure, shut your mouth, nod, I need this job. And but then you start looking for another job. You never stop. You get a job that's outside of your normal credentials. Okay. Take it. Say that you used to be an office manager. Well, now you had to take a job at McDonald's. Everybody needs to eat. Everybody needs a place to sleep. There's no shame in taking a job that's under your skills. That's okay. But you never stop. Never stop looking for the job that's with your skills. Oh, but that gap in employment. I love especially when they say, well, describe this gap here, that, you took this job that's, working janitorial when you were a maintenance tech. Nobody was hiring a maintenance tech. Oh, well, why'd you take the janitorial job? I was willing to put my foot in the door because there was maintenance, positions in the company. I think that they would probably hire from within faster than they would hire from without. Oh, well, I guess that does make sense. Well, how come you're applying here? Well, they got a really good maintenance team. They haven't lost anybody in the job yet, so I'm willing to look for, my actual tech. You were open. You were hiring. But this also tells them you still have a job. You don't have to take their job. Like, okay, well, we're willing to hire you for $10 an hour. Yeah, but the job's worth $11.50. So pay me $11.50. Well, we just can't start you at $11.50. Are you willing to put in paper that if I make it for 3 months, that you will give me $12 an hour? Well, you just said the job was worth $11.50. In 3 months, you'll know that I'm worth $12 an hour. These are the kind of shit you pull on them. You make them emotionally invested in you. Well, duh. Yeah, I mean, the first thing you say is you make sure I get my copy of that. Oh, it'll be in your file. No, I want paperwork. I want it in my hand. In today's day and age, it's like when I'm done signing it, take my cell phone, click. Make them know that you know your shit, that you have every idea. Yeah, I mean, there's no reason not to. I mean, especially when, now we have, phones that recognize font so you can even turn it into a document. But anyway, I think I've rambled on enough. We have talked about a wide variety of subjects. I hope you enjoyed yourself tonight. I hope you're looking after your mental health. Watch a comedy. Watch something that makes you laugh. Or cry if you need it. There's nothing wrong with a good cry. Whatever you need to make your mental health better. And you have a great evening. And I hope to see you here tomorrow. Good. No, I'm not playing Borderlands tomorrow. I was going to, but I got, do you guys remember the Roadside Cafe game and the Haunted House Flipper game? What was it called? Creepy Shift. The Creepy Shift series of games. Oh, thank you for snoozing it. Well, okay. Well, they've released another one, and this is Uncle Joe's Haunted Hotel. It's been a while since the last game. Ghost played the Roadside Cafe, and I think I played it later. But yeah, Creepy Shift, Uncle Joe's, what is it? Motel. I'll be playing that one tomorrow night. Hope to see you there. Have fun. Bye-bye.